Whenever you're thinking of a direct dye, think of cellophane. That really helped me get my head around the formulation side of things. So, for example, one common problem that a lot of us run into when we are working with direct dyes is when we get people that come in with blue and they want blue hair. Now, usually when we lighten people up, we get this kind of colour, right? Yellow. Cellophane, this is the blue cellophane, so this represents our blue direct dye, and when we put the blue on the yellow, what happens? It goes a bit green. So a good thing to think of when you're working with direct dyes is think of cellophane. I have all these little bits of cellophane in my hand. And now just think, you can see through this cellophane. This represents the direct dye. Whatever I put this on, the colour that is underneath is going to contribute to the colour that I see through it. So for example, I have with me a white piece of paper and a yellow piece of paper. I know it's a little bit hard for you to see, but that's your yellow and that's your white. Now if I put a blue direct dye, for say, over the yellow piece of paper, I get a little bit more of a greeny effect. When I put it on the white piece of paper, you can see it's much more true to tone. So let me just organise that a bit better. Right. So you can see the difference there, right? On the yellow piece of paper and the white piece of paper. So white hair is going to be always more true to tone. Yellow hair, that is going to contribute. So yeah, I just find cellophane is just a really helpful way of kind of getting your head around how direct dyes work. Always think back to cellophane. If I put a purple direct dye over white hair versus yellow hair, see how much that canvas that it's going on actually contributes to the tone, because we've added the yellow into it. So your colour wheel really does come into it when you start thinking like that with your formulations. Now, a common one is, do you pre-tone before you do your vivids? Me, pretty much 99% of the time, no, I don't. I use my colour wheel and I correct the colours in my formulation. Now, if you are to pre-tone, I would suggest using a purple shampoo over an oxidizing tint, say like a blonde ash toner, to get rid of the yellow. And the reason I would do this is because if you're using a purple shampoo, it's going to leave the cuticle open for you. It's not actually going to deposit colour and kind of put something in the hair. You want that hair to be open, like really cuticle open, ready to receive. It's best if it's just raw and it's got nothing on it. If you do use a toner, like a blonde ash toner, you just will get a less bright effect, because you're kind of putting something in the hair first and then you're putting your direct dye over it. So it's just going to be a bit more muted. It's great if you want that really smoky metallic kind of look. That's about the only situation that I would pre-tone like that. But 99% of the time I formulate. Now, let me explain that to you. And I am going to show you how to kind of use the colour wheel to your advantage and avoid needing to pre-tone. Now, colour wheel is everything. I cannot stress this enough. I'm going to include a colour wheel here for you, just one that I have found very useful for me. Like, this is my favourite colour wheel. I love it. There's so many colour wheels out there that are just not quite right, but this one was my favourite, so I'm going to just include that for you. Here's my little colour wheel. I'll add that in. Now, for example, our most common issue that we seem to run into as hairdressers is with blues. We lighten someone up, and when we lift someone up, the hair goes yellow always. Most of the time, we are dealing with a not perfect canvas. Like 90% of the time, I never really get a perfect canvas. So most of the time, we're not dealing with hair that's this colour. Most of the time we are dealing with hair that is this colour. You see the difference there. Yellow, that yellow level 9. Now, what I would do if I wanted a real like royal blue and I didn't want that greeny mermaidy blue, see, on this color wheel how this blue is more kind of to the greeny side, and this blue is kind of closer to the violet side. So if I wanted to create this blue on this yellow, I would add some violet into my mix when I'm actually mixing it up. How much, you are just going to kind of have to be the judge of that. I would just mix a very little bit at a time and then try it on the hair and then have a look, kind of examine it and think, like scrape a little bit off and see. If you like that tone, then that's great. If you need to go back and adjust it and add a little bit more in, then you can. If you don't use violet, you could use a little bit of red, but that's going to be a lot stronger. Obviously, because if you add a little bit of red in, then you will get a violet. I would go violet. I wouldn't go down the red alley because it's just a bit too strong. And we can do that for a lot of other things. Say, for example, we had someone that was a yellow level 9 and they wanted that really nice teal green, you know, like a bluey green. Think back to the cellophane. Whatever is underneath is going to contribute. So formulate for that. So we know we've put this color on. It's going to look like this color because the yellow has contributed. So I will add a little bit more blue to swing it more this way. This same thing can be applied for anything. The same deal with the purple. And it's the same deal with a red. Now, this is why a lot of people, when they do pinks, a lot of the time the pinks will go a little bit orangey, because what happens is if you have got that yellow level 9 and you put pink on it, you are mixing this pink with this yellow. So what happens? It ends up here. And then people kind of freak out and go, oh no, why is it looking orangey? So how would you counteract that? The way I would counteract that is I would just simply add a little bit of purple into my pink to swing it more around this side of the color wheel rather than around that side. Do you see what I mean? It's very simple. It's just basic color wheel. It's stuff that you probably already know. But I just find it so handy because you still forget. Like it's always good to look for reference. So pin that up in your back room somewhere. Have it where you formulate and just always look at it. And there's the thing I love about this color wheel is there is like 3 different types of green. There are 3 different types of pink. There's 2 different types of violet, 2 different types of blue. And so whenever a client says to me, I want violet, I'm kind of like, well, do you want purple? Do you want a warm purple or a cool purple? Because you can see there's a purple that's more closer to the pink, and there's also the purple that's more close to the blue side. So you've got that's why I love this color wheel, because it kind of displays that there are warm and cool tones to pretty much everything. So I'm gonna leave you with that, and I highly suggest that you print it off and just study it, look at it, have a play with your formulations, get a bunch of bowls out and just start playing, just start adding and mixing and, you know, getting an idea of how these colors work. I like to use white bowls when I'm mixing because I can see what colors I'm working with. What color you mix up in the bowl is not necessarily going to be how the color comes out. That depends on the hair. Unless the hair is white, it won't come out looking exactly like it is in the bowl. So always test it on the hair, have a look, and if you need to come back and readjust your formulations, then come back and readjust your formulations. Like, don't feel like you can't. I still do that now. It's very hard to look at a color in a bowl and like know exactly how that is going to look in the hair. So it's very visual, and I will adjust things as I go.